Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Mystery Read Reads. Today we are going to go over my disclaimer again. This beta read in Concrit is at the author's request, and this video is for learning purposes. Today we're doing a beta read in Concrit for some original fiction. We are looking at chapter 1, titled The Beckoning from, let's see, what did she have? I think we have a fantasy. Okay, it's fantasy fiction. And so I'm looking back in my notes because I've actually got a little bit of notes on this one. So the author reached out to me and wanted me to look at chapter 1, but there was a prologue, which you can see over here. And so she advised that I read the prologue first, which I had to make myself chill out about it and do it, because when I first read for you guys, I'm trying to give you my first impressions and start from the very beginning. So it was kind of hard for me to resist the urge to go back to the prologue and start there with this read and crit. But my author asked for chapter 1, and so that's what I'm doing. But I read the prologue so that I would keep an eye out for something that might show up in chapter 1. There was mention of an Easter egg, so we'll see if that pops up for me. I love all kinds of writing. I do. I think the only thing that I don't particularly like in writing, books that I'm not going to seek out, and that I generally, even this is true even of movies, to be honest, I avoid horror. I really do. I just, it's a personal preference. I don't like the I guess I want to say kind of the energy that surrounds it, and so I don't want that around my space, in my space, and so I don't invite that in, and so I generally avoid horror. But this is a fantasy fiction. I was trying to look back and see if there was notes about specifically what type of fantasy fiction. I had to do a quick search because I don't typically write in fantasy fiction. I love all the creatures that come with fantasy, like elves and orcs and dragons and dwarves, and I love all of it, and I watch those things. I enjoy them. My husband read the Wheel of Time series, and so we've been watching that together, and so I'm a little quirky that way. I do enjoy these things, but you will find it very odd. I don't typically read fantasy fiction, and the reason is when I pick up a novel and I open it, and the first sentence is something where I have to check a thesaurus, or I have to check a dictionary, or I have to, I need some kind of pronunciation. I'm not going to be able to read the character's name, and it's letters that don't typically go together, and I'm taking a shot in the dark as to whether or not I'm doing it right. There's some things for me that my brain is like, no, I just want to get in and enjoy my characters and follow my story. And so I look for, and I kind of like this about the prologue of this piece, I look for the story to kind of read like a regular book. You can have all the elements of fantasy and have it be easy to read. And I really think that makes it more attractive to people who enjoy fantasy like I do, but we don't want to work super hard at trying to remember every part of the world. And then there's other people who are completely, the world is it for them. They want that entire thing. So if you can find the sweet spot and marry those two things together to where you have something that is easy to read and easy to follow, I think that's where you've got something really going for you. I read this prologue, and there were some things I did like about it. I would have made a few suggestions, but there was things I did like about it. I did have to go onto the internet and search for what are the rules of fantasy writing, because I typically don't write fantasy, even though I do write. I guess I don't know. I write in the Ninja Turtles fandom. I also write realistic fiction. So I write in a bunch of different genres. I write lots of romance. It's usually a sub element or the storyline of whatever I'm writing. I love to write romance, and I write emotions and feelings. That's my bread and butter. In my round robins, my role plays with my writing partners, if there's a really emotional scene, sometimes they'll literally be like, "Up, you're up," and I'll go for it, and that's my jam. So I had to look up the rules of fantasy writing just to make sure that I'm keeping those rules in mind, and the rules for each genre are slightly different. For example, one of the things in fantasy writing is switching points of view is okay. It's an acceptable, if not expected, thing for us to see. So if we do that here, I'm keeping that in mind, that is okay, and I'll just try to follow what I guess I don't want to say technique, but what path is chosen with managing switching of points of view. So I also personally don't have problems with it. It's more of a professional thing. When you start writing professionally, they'll come after you for point of view pretty hard, to be very, very honest. And so I'm just going to keep an eye out for that. It says here, I made some notes: magic systems, world building, complex cast of characters, a quest, a nemesis. So there's some things I'm kind of keeping in mind for what's expected in a fantasy writing. So we're going to dive into chapter 1, The Beckoning, for I believe it's Shadow. I'm trying to look at the name of the other document. Shadow of Steel is the name of the book, and I read the prologue, and I'm going to try to keep it to myself, although I also have to keep in my mind, if you didn't read the prologue, would chapter 1 still make sense? So I'm probably going to say no after reading the prologue, but we're going to dive in here and see what happens. So chapter 1, The Beckoning. We're in Michigan, Camp Allegan, August 1st, 1984. Crushing pain startled me awake. My arms and legs shook outward in panic. I reached for my head, a pounding headache. Why? A heavy studded boot stepped on the side of my face. That's why. With my head planted to the ground, I felt the panic spread from my brain to the rest of my body. Lightning struck and poisoned me, unable to escape my body. I'm going to pause. Okay, so what I'm pausing for is not a super, super big deal. It is a personal writing preference, but I am going to point it out because you may find what I say about it helpful. So one of the things when I'm screening my writing, I look for some typical things that are, it might be my voice, it might be my personal writing style, but we're gonna explain what I'm talking about. Okay, so this says I felt. Sometimes you're gonna have to say I felt, and sometimes if you can find a way to not say I felt, rather to describe how you felt without saying I felt, it's going to draw your reader in more. I call it distancing, and let me give you an example. With my head planted to the ground, panic spread from my brain to the rest of my body. See, I've just eliminated I felt and I've made the sentence, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, more immersive. I haven't changed it drastically. I have removed a distancing word, and the sentence worked just as well, if not better, without it. Try it out and see what you think and how you feel about it. Lightning struck and poisoned me, unable to escape my body. Okay, so I'm kind of wondering, are they getting jabbed with a cattle prod or something? Hang on. So she's got a heavy studded boot on the side of her face. I almost, stepped works, but I almost wonder, because you've got such a nice tight dramatic thing happening here, if you found a more dramatic word in lieu of stepped, that you might get to continue to build on the intensity here. That's just a thought. It's fine. I don't want you to think it's not. I'm just wondering, you could build on the intensity. Crushing, because you started out great here. You got crushing pain startled me awake. My arms and legs shook outward in panic. I don't know. Are they shaking? Because if I think of it as shaking, then would it be like trembling? I kind of feel like in shock, so yeah, okay. I reached for my head, a pounding headache. Why? A heavy-studded boot stepped on the side of my face. That's why. I kind of want a dramatic word here, something that that has the same intensity as crushing, as you continue to build on the intensity of that paragraph. And that's just my thought. Take it for what you will. We're going to move on. With my head planted to the ground, I felt panic. Okay. I felt the panic spread from my brain to the rest of my body. I already gave my opinion about that. We're going to move on. Lightning struck and poisoned me, unable to escape my body. Okay. Really quick. You have a word echo on my body. Generally, a word echo is when you have used the same exact phrase, and in some situations, the same word. This is a good example of it, more than once in not only a paragraph, but within a chapter. My body is going to be an example here. If I find more, I'll point them out to you to give further examples of what I'm trying to say. But generally, you don't want to use repetition in this way twice in the same chapter. So I would either remove my body, which, by the way, I kind of feel like that might be distancing as well. I don't want to be telling my reader the story. You are, because that's the nature of writing. We are all telling a story, but you want to forget that the narrator is there. You want to be immersed into the story. And so we want to remove things that distance us from it. I personally, and this could just be my opinion or my voice or my prose or my style, I remove words like this whenever possible. And we'll try it without it and see what happens. With my head planted to the ground, I felt, okay, we're going to admit that. Panic. With my head planted to the ground, panic spread from my brain to the rest of my body. Keep my body in this situation. Lightning struck and poisoned me, unable to escape. I would omit that one. So I would keep this one and I would omit this one. And omitting is such a simple thing it's probably the easiest part of revision for me to live with, is omitting some things, unless they're pretty words that weave together beautifully and just sound so great together and give me the feels. And then I'm told I have to take them out because that totally happens. And darn it, I hate it when it does. Let's see. I'm a little, I'm thinking cattle prod here. Unless you're trying to be creative about the way you describe the pain of them crushing your head. But I'm getting cattle prod vibes. We're going to keep going. I was hyperventilating. My brain screamed for escape. Okay, we have my brain on an echo again. Here's my brain, and here's my brain as well. We'll have to think about that. As much as I tried, I couldn't move the weight off my head. Okay, we've got my head repetitive too. I took short breaths, sucking in the moist air of the night. The smell of freshly crushed grass mixed with the vile odor of artificial rubber on my captor's boot. I kind of like that, actually, because she's kind of her senses are being overwhelmed. So she's kind of describing that feeling. I tried to pry it off. I dug deeper under the sole with my fingers and tried to lift. You've got I tried there twice there. Let's see. I tried to pry it off. Digging deeper under the sole with my fingers. Yeah, I might rework this right here and be like, I tried to pry it off, comma, digging deeper under the sole with my fingers, trying to lift. It's a more active sentence. You're still saying the same thing. You're just cleaning it up a little bit, a little polish. Let's see. I was hyperventilating. My brain screamed for escape. I'm going to point out these echoes. I'll just highlight them. I'm not going to go on and on about them. And that'll be for you to go back and look at and think about how you want to potentially, if you want to remove them. You might keep, remember, you can keep one of the two. You're just trying to rework or to eliminate one of the two. So one's got to go and one can stay. That's my suggestion. This is your story. You do what you feel. As much as I tried, I couldn't move the weight off my head. I took short breaths, sucking. Okay, we're going to keep going. My other senses gradually came back in between pulsating throbs of searing pain. My eyes opened wider, trying to regain focus, and that's when I spotted the shadowy outline of the prison barracks in the distance. Spitting out bits of gravel and dirt, I fought hard not to scream. Right now, as a reader, I'm taking in this scene. So this character is getting their head ground into the earth. I'm guessing we don't know that we're on planet Earth. I'm going to assume that. They're getting stomped on. Daggone. Let's see. Remnants of crushed rock macerated into my right cheek. Okay. Let me just look at this really quick. I don't think I have ever heard someone use macerated, so let's just figure out if it... Okay, macerated. To soften or become softened by soaking in a liquid. Cause to grow thinner or waste away, especially by fasting. Remnants of crushed rock macerated into my right cheek. I don't know if I would... first of all, reader, I'm cringing at the crushed rock mashing into a person's cheek. Let's see. Past tense. Soften or become softened by soaking in a liquid. I don't think rocks are soaking in a liquid unless they're soaking in the blood of her cheek, and they're not going to get soft that fast. I don't know that I would use this word here. And I'm going to keep going. I felt the thick, knobby rubber tread of the combat boot pressed against my skull. Okay. Skull is a great variation of head. This is our third this is our third mention of the shoe on the head. It's been going on here for a little bit. Let's see. The tormentor holding me down shined a flashlight into my face. I narrowed my eyes. I don't think I would have that sentence there. Maybe I flinched. I might say I flinched or squint, something like that. When I think of narrowing eyes, I think of a person having thoughts and opinions about whatever it is that's going on in the interaction. With a boot against my skull and someone shining a flashlight in my face, I'm more likely to clamp my eyes shut, squint, flinch, something, recoil from the light, something like that. Any of those might be my suggestion there. The tormentor holding me down shined a flashlight into my face. Okay. Prisoner, explain yourself. A shout boomed from above me, alarming the nearby crickets into silence. I knew this voice. Blood raged inside my veins. He lived to taunt and torment. My rage exploded. Okay, so... Wait, weren't we afraid? We were afraid. We were afraid, right? Okay, panic is fear. Okay. I kind of thought they were afraid. I had definite feelings of fear. I guess when this person, we don't even know if we have a person. We're going to call them a person. Everybody's going to be a person. Okay. I guess even an orc in this, whatever creature would still be a person. So we're going to go with that. I'm just going to point out, I am 6 paragraphs in. We're in an action scene. Okay. I do not know really anything about our character whose point of view we are in at this point. I'm just making a note. I knew this voice. So this person who's having their head crushed knows their attacker. Okay, so blood raged inside my veins, and we have rage twice in one paragraph. Raged here, and we have rage again here. You may want to omit one or reword something or pick a different word that also implies fury. He lived in taunt and torment. So we've got a bully. Got that. Okay. Those are my suggestions for that paragraph. Let's see. My fists clenched with a volatile mix of rage and disgust smacked at his boot. Okay, so we have gone from afraid to furious. I'm guessing, you know what I might suggest is something. Okay, so when he speaks and this person registers that they know who has them. Something that almost internal thoughts. You have an action scene, so you have to be, your internal thoughts would be short and sparing, which you have done very, very well so far, because we're not getting internal thoughts. Generally, these are mostly this person is processing this situation that they're in. So I knew this voice. Blood raged inside my veins. He lived to taunt and torment. My rage exploded. I kind of want a tiny little transition of some sort. It could be just a few words, however you think of it. Something in here that implies a shift from fear to fury. I believe it begins right here with the recognition of the voice. But this is one of those situations where, to make it less jarring, because we're in a tight and tense situation, you might say, I knew this voice. I might even move that he lived to taunt and torment. Maybe, you know what? You've got it here, the components. I think you just need some rearranging a little bit, maybe. It could also be the word echo could be disrupting it. Like, the components are there, but I kind of felt jarred, and it might be the word echo that did it. So first, I would suggest trying to eliminate that, and then rereading the sentence and seeing the paragraph and seeing how, if that changed the flow of it. From a reader point of view, I initially missed, and this could be my beta brain, okay? Because when I beta read, my brain is screening for a list of things. At the same time, I'm also getting a first-time reader impression, and the components you need to make that transition from fear to anger are there. But I was a little jarred still, and I think the jarring might have come from the word echo. So possibly, if we eliminate that jarring's going to go, and this is going to come forth, which is what you kind of need it to do, and not be overshadowed by the echo. I think that's what's happening there. So sorry I took so long to arrive at that thought. Sometimes I have to talk through what it is that could possibly be pulling me from your story to get to the bottom of it, so I apologize if it takes too long. My fists, clenched with a volatile mix of rage and disgust, smacked at his boot. Okay, I like this action. Address your word echo, and that's going to shine. I really like that action a lot. We have now got, I like it. I like it a lot. We've got them smacking at the boot. You're showing the anger. You're showing it so well. And I know we're not wanting internal dialogue because we're in an action scene. So good job on you. My fist clenched. Oh, you know what? My fists clenched. Ooh. Let's see, with a volatile mix of rage and disgust smacked at his boot. I want you to really hold on to these and to hold on to this and just rework some, probably just omitting that echo, and this sentence is going to come through really nicely for you. I like it. The action's great. Get off already. I really wanted to scream that out loud, but knew I had to restrain myself. Oh gosh, the inner turmoil. I'm so sorry. Okay. Raucous laughter burst from my captor, loud and hollow. That's how easily he dismissed my vigilance, my counter to his boot. Okay. Raucous laughter burst from my captor, loud and hollow. Got that? Good. That's how easily he dismissed my. I want something other than vigilance there. Vigilance should be like dedication. I know you're implying this character's commitment to combating the boot on their face. I almost might even omit this sentence. Raucous laughter burst from my captor, loud and hollow. I stayed silent, knowing my screams of agony would only thrill and excite him into more violence, or even entice him, if you want to consider that. This usual pretentious show of bravado could only be gap-toothed Tracy. Ever since the first day, his commanding voice was an octave lower when ordering us around. No doubt he had an audience building and was swishing his greasy seaweed bangs to the right, just like on collection day. I clenched my fist, digging nails into skin. Okay, so we've clenched our fist, I feel like, up here as well. Yep, there it is. We've clenched our fist. So you've got echo on your action right there and right there. Let's see. Tracy kicked me with his boot so that I could stare at the stars and then ruined the view with his face. I hit him with my best laser death glare. He held his flashlight towards his chin, and his big nose flared like an enraged bull's nose. Okay, you've got an echo on nose. I focused on his big, gapped mustache to avoid his scowl, but he superglued his eyes to mine. Oh no. Okay, I'm going to pause here. Let's see. Tracy kicked me with his boot so that I could stare at the stars. I think... I get it. So like I'm guessing he's lifted his boot off this person's face. By the way, I don't know if this character is male or female. Oh, here we go. Right there. Hold her face. So we now know we have a female character. Okay. So I'm guessing when he kicked her, he must have lifted his foot up to kick her. Here's the thing. There is nothing wrong with this. It even kind of is a awkward and unique way to have the person kind of kicked and flop over, and they're staring at the sky. As a reader, when I read the word stars, I'm immediately drawn to a soft, beautiful set of feelings and thoughts, because we associate the stars with dreamy, wonderful things. So I kind of like this and I kind of don't at the same time. And what it is I kind of like the creative way you said it, because it's kind of jarring, and that could be good or bad. That's completely a personal preference. But I am going to point out that when a reader sees the word stars, generally speaking, humans associate the stars with dreamy, faraway, wonderful, positive things. And I think that's what's a little jarring about this. So that's just an observation. That's a reader thought. I immediately had soft feelings here. And honestly, the more I think about it, I kind of like it, even though I initially I had a jerked feeling inside of me because of that. We've been kicked, but we're looking at something beautiful. So lots of feels and thoughts about that. Take it for what you will. Those are my thoughts. They're not telling you to do anything. They're just an observation of a reader process as I read that sentence, the kind of the thoughts that came to my mind. So Tracy kicked me with his boot so that I could stare at the stars, and then ruined the view with his face. I kind of like that too. Okay. I do like that. Yeah, I kind of think I like that. Very creative. I hit him with my best laser death glare. Okay. You have this stunning sentence, this really unique, jarring, and it kind of feels like a kick, to be very honest. And then you are detracting from it right here, and I'm going to tell you why. I hit him with my best laser death glare. Do you know what's not out there 1,000,000 times? Is that. Do you know what is? Is this, the laser death glare. You're doing yourself a little bit of a disservice. I would just take it out because you've got the stuff right here. You could just say, I glared at him, or because like you've done your action really well. It's tight, and so I kind of think you could go really short and simple here. You don't have to describe it. I glared at him, or something like that, where I can just see her, which I don't know what she looks like, but I can envision this person staring back at their attacker and just meeting their eyes and not looking away. I've got that visual. He held his flashlight towards his chin and his big nose flared like an enraged bull's. I would just drop the nose right there and put the period there. Problem solved. I focused on his big gapped mustache. Ooh, a big gap mustache. So is that like, what does that look like? What does a big gap mustache look like? Is that like a space on his lip, like right between the two? Is it like, I kind of envision a handlebar. I wonder if that's, but with a space between it. Interesting. I focused on his big gap mustache to avoid his scowl, but he superglued his eyes to mine. Oh no. Interesting. Okay. I tried to look away. I didn't want him in my head. I like that a lot. Hold her face, Tracy barked at the nearest guard. Sean untied his shirt from around his waist and wrapped it around me, keeping his hands from touching my skin directly. Quick little, I would probably just drop the directly right there and go with a period right there. That's just a suggestion. I knew Sean. He wasn't a power-hungry psychopath like Tracy. He always turned the other way when Tracy was on his malicious streak. I might say on a malicious streak. Even as he gripped my face and held me down, I understood he was just doing his job, just trying to avoid Tracy's wrath. So I'm going to point out something here. There's a little bit of an echo on here, but this is when it's okay because of the way that we were saying it. I think the echo might be the bigger issue when it's an echo of a noun. It can also be an echo of an action. I will say that I've had on some grammar apps, I've had them flag the use of the word just, suggesting omitting it. And when I take it out, my sentence is usually just fine without it, if not better. So that's something to consider. Is I also go through and screen my writing literally for the word just. Sometimes I like it and I want it there and I'm keeping it, daggone it. But other times I do go through and look and say, hey, do I really need this here? And how does it sound without it? If it's still working, I'll go ahead and take it out and read it again. If I want it back, I'll put it back. Usually once I take it out, I'm easily able to let it go. So that's just a thought with the word just. Even as he gripped my face and held me down, I understood he was just doing his job, just trying to avoid Tracy's wrath. I wasn't going to plead with Sean with my eyes. Instead, I kept my steely gaze on Tracy. Okay, so she's kind of ignoring Sean and she's staying focused on Tracy. Okay, good. I wasn't going to plead with Sean with my eyes. Instead, okay, we're going to keep going with that. Look fierce, Saya. Show him you're not prey. Okay, all right. We got her name now, too. Sean tried stopping Tracy before. That just got the prisoner and himself beat up even more. I was determined to keep my thoughts to myself, lest my friends suffer even more punishing humiliation. Tracy dropped the flashlight, grabbed my sleeve carefully, and crouched on my chest with a grin, faking a calm and collected demeanor. Okay, this is conflicting, so I'm going to pay attention to see if it's deliberate. We're going to see. Okay, Tracy dropped the flashlight, grabbed my sleeve carefully, and crouched on my chest with a grin, faking a calm and collected demeanor. I could smell his sweat overpowering the same ivory soap we had in our prison, at least before our soap ran out. I was surprised he stomached my prison stench and got this close. Okay, this would have read just fine for me as a reader, except when I see the word carefully And see, here you're showing him acting like he's calm and collected. Okay, so this guy has been super violent, very aggressive, clearly a bully. And now he's kind of gotten creepy from like aggressive jerk to like creepy jerk. To make this a little less jarring, you might, a little more subtle and a little less jarring. Let's see. Tracy dropped the flashlight. So dropping it. Okay. So this man has been really aggressive in a very rough way, not this creepy way. So to me, when I think creepy, I'm thinking almost antagonizing, and that can be drawn out, and someone who's really sick would take their time with that. So now it kind of sounds like he's dropping into that, but I wanted to sound a little more subtle. I feel like it just needs a little bit more of something. Tracy dropped the flashlight, grabbed my sleeve carefully, and crouched on my chest with a grin. You know what it is? I don't think I want you to tell us because you're showing us, okay? So I almost wonder, you know what? I wonder if we dropped this, if this would read better, doing exactly what you want without telling it. I think we might be telling here. And your action here shows it. And then this telling detracts from it. So let's just try it out and see what happens. Tracy dropped the flashlight, grabbed my sleeve carefully, and crouched on my chest with a grin. I could smell his sweat overpowering the same ivory soap we had in our prison, at least before our soap ran out. I was surprised he stomached my prison stench and got this close. I would also omit, I like that better, to be very honest with you, and I think that might be what was happening. So, yeah. Let you think about that and see what you think. I would probably omit I'd keep this sentence with the prison, and I would just drop the word prison from this sentence. I think it's going to read beautifully. So let's just try it out. Tracy dropped the flashlight, grabbed my sleeve carefully, and crouched on my chest with a grin. I could smell his sweat overpowering the same ivory soap we had in our prison, at least before our soap ran out. I was surprised he stomached my stench and got this close. What do you think? I hope that's helpful. Making quite the noise tonight, he paused, scanning the area. Some prisoners must have come out to see the commotion. Tracy clapped 3 times for attention. Showtime's over. Billy, corral them back inside. Zap anyone who wants to linger. Ooh, so was there a cattle prod? Oh, you know what? If there was a cattle prod back with the lightning thing at the beginning there that I mentioned, where I kind of had the impression of a cattle prod, you might actually mention one to make that really clear. If that was real, if I had the correct thought and that was the result of a cattle prod, great job showing it. But if you can give some like little tidbit of mention of a cattle prod, that would seal the deal there and be very, very clear. I did get the impression, but I wasn't sure. I think we want our reader to be sure. It's in this situation, maybe. Those are my thoughts. So interesting. So it does sound like there's a cattle prod here. Ooh, where was I? Okay. Zap anyone who wants to linger. Quick as he could whistle with his gap teeth, Tracy held out his stun gun. Ooh, it was a stun gun. So is that kind of the same? Is it the same thing as a cattle prod? I'd have to look that up, but I'm not going to do it right this minute. Billy, even quicker, came over to grab it with a reassuring, sinister grin. You couldn't trust Billy with his own. Not after what happened to Wanda. Oh. Tracy turned to me, stroking the edge of his overparted mustache. Pause. We have lots of descriptions of his mustache. I might pick something else. I liked, he's got the wide nostrils. He's got this mustache. I wouldn't keep mentioning the mustache. I would probably only mention it once in the chapter. Pick maybe a different. I do like the idea of him stroking the edge of it. You know what I might do? Tracy turned to me, stroking the edge of his mustache. I might not draw so much attention to it by taking out the adjective around it and see if that works. Because the action here is good. You've given him a movement, which is great. He's doing something. So, but you don't want to draw too much attention to the mustache. So if you remove the adjective from it, you're gonna get more of the action out of it than the distraction of the adjective, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Now, as I was saying, what in the blue blazes were you up to in the dead of night? Good question. What was I doing out here? I don't really know. And let me guess, Tracy leaned closer, never blinking. You don't remember shaking the gates either and mumbling under your breath. I shook my head. Tracy narrowed his eyes. Look here, Purple, he threatened. My name was Saya, but ever since I turned purple, the nickname stuck. After years of harvesting Malvos? We're going to call it Malvos. If I'm saying it wrong, I do apologize. After years of harvesting Malvos, I got the purple taint in me, as Mom would say. Purple's fine. I wanted them to fear me. I don't care that you're leaving here soon. It's not soon enough. He gripped me harder. And they don't pay me enough. He dug his nails into my shirt. Grimacing, I took the pain, prepared for the worst. He quickly released my arms and backed away fast enough to stay safe from direct contact and slow enough to look in control. He did so only to kick and stomp on me until he was satisfied. I stayed silent and curled, gasping for air. It only took moments to be broken to bits. I'd remove the only there, and I'm going to reread this without only and see what you think. I stayed silent and curled, gasping for air. It took moments to be broken to bits. I might even say it took but moments to be broken to bits. It took but moments to be broken to bits. Or it took moments to be broken to bits. It only took moments to be broken to bits. I don't know. You toy with it or leave it, and I'm just going to keep going. I stayed silent and curled, gasping for air. It took but moments to be broken to bits. The pain I held inside was not just physical, but emotional. I was fragile and frail, powerless. But I did not give myself permission to cry. Cockroaches don't cry. Neither will I. Pause. Wow, is she equating herself to a cockroach? Is she? Why? Does she think little of her? Does she think little of herself? Because, and there's a chance she might, because her mother associated the purple with being tainted. So it sounds like she feels like purple's fine. Either she feels like purple's fine and she believes it, or she tells herself that she accepts it and it is what it is. And these are my impressions of her. Okay. So I hope that this helps you to see if I'm getting the right impression, or the impression you intended for me to get of her. These are thoughts. And then, let's see. So I'm kind of wondering, does she think maybe that this is how people view purple people, or is this how she views herself? Or she's in a prison and this guy is beating her. So maybe I just think that's really interesting right there. That sticks out, and it makes me think about her and makes me ask, does she perceive herself as a cockroach, and why is that? So I'm assuming it's because she's purple. So because of the way that she said her mom, we hold our parents' thoughts about us in pretty high regard until, we're old enough to, I guess, think and decide for ourselves. Let's see. I stayed silent and curled, gasping for air. It took but moments to be broken to bits. The pain I held inside was not just physical, but emotional. You know what? I kind of want you to take this one, and rather than tell me that she's fragile and frail, show me that she's fragile and frail. What does that feel like? What does fragile and frail feel like? What is maybe an internal thought there that implies that she is fragile and frail? Or, yeah, I think maybe that. We don't want to be telling, and so I'm thinking maybe if this might have more punch and more empathy for our character, with something of an internal thought, which we kind of have here, which is good. But either that, or it might be another situation where if you take this out, we could try reading it without that and see if that's taking away from your shine. So let's just try that for a second. I stayed silent and curled, gasping for air. It took but moments to be broken to bits. The pain I held inside was not just physical, but emotional. Powerless. But I did not give myself permission to cry. Cockroaches don't cry. Neither will I. Maybe. She might even say I was powerless, but I did not give myself permission to cry. Yeah, I kind of feel like this is a distancing sentence or a telling sentence, which is causing distance, if that makes sense. At least if I can point out where what is not working, that we can let the rest of it come forth and shine. And we'll go with that. To do this again, and I'll have my gloves ready to give you a black eye to remember me by, he growled. So I'm having a reader thought, kind of a bait and a little bit of a beta thought. We have a couple of well-known, well-used sayings that are in here. I noticed one a while back, and I didn't say anything because I like the way you're using them. If you're going to use things that are done, overdone or done, or, they show up everywhere, very common things, such as giving someone a black eye to remember them by, your use of them being in dialogue is perfect. Okay. I still would use them sparingly within a chapter. You want your writing to stand apart from other people, and so I would use them sparingly. You do have another one. I'm not going to scroll back through here too far because I don't want to lose my spot and I don't want to keep you up. But there's another one back in here that was another very common saying. And I believe it was also dialogue, and that might be why I didn't mention it when I first saw it, because if you're going to use a commonly used phrase, using it in dialogue is the way that you should do it, because that's how people talk, but do it sparingly. That's my thought and my suggestion, and we're going to keep rolling on. Also, I'm not really sure if you want the underline there. I'm not going to mess with your document, but I don't know if you meant for that to be there. Okay. He's the one that needed a black eye. A black eye would improve his image, I fumed. Seize the silence. Words mean nothing to a roach. Live on. Okay, I'm now I gotta pause, because we've mentioned cockroaches twice. Is he a roach? I assumed he was a person. Oh, hang on. At first I thought this was an internal thought of herself. Did I misunderstand that? And the mention of a roach down here sounds like he's the roach. Okay. So you had my internal thoughts on this, and I just want to point out that using the roach twice has got me thinking the things I just said out loud. So now I'm wondering, was she thinking of herself that way back here? Now I'm even second guessing myself more. Like I already was having thoughts when I first came upon it, kind of like, but they were reader thoughts as to how she perceived herself and how others perceived her. The way that it read the first time I read it. But now that I'm down here and she's mentioning a roach again, but in this sentence, it seems to imply the roach is her attacker, Tracy. Now I'm wondering if he's a roach, and because we're in fantasy, I'm wondering if he's literally a roach. And, yeah, so, I guess I don't want to say confused, but now I'm conflicted and I'm not sure. So those are my reader impressions. And this is the reason why. I hope that just me noting these observations help you. So I'm just going to give my thought and keep going because I'm not sure. it could be interpreted a couple of different ways. Hopefully the reader thought, with the multiple interpretations, you as the author who knew what your intention was, by me pointing that out, will help you decide what action you should take, if any. After a couple of painful moments of rest, I staggered up and looked around to see Billy take over Sean's watch of me. Billy held the taser out. Tracy boasted hang on. Billy. Is Billy a new guy? We had Sean and Tracy. So is Billy, I'm guessing Billy's another, I'm guessing these are prison guards. I'm guessing Billy is another one. Okay, I think we're introducing a new character. Did I lose my spot? After a couple of painful moments of rest, I staggered up and looked around to see Billy taking over Sean's watch of me. Billy held the taser out. Tracy boasted they'd equip all cops with these new tasers by 1990. They were meant for long range instead of the short range stun gun. The last time Billy had a taser, he shot the escapee Wanda in the back. She was taken to the hospital and we never saw her again. We were the guinea pigs before the product was approved for use by the police. I hoped they would never approve it. Okay. I like this insight, but it reads more telling than dramatic, I guess. I think I'm wanting, here's what I want for you. I want your reader to feel invested and caught up and concerned. And I kind of felt that back when Wanda was first mentioned. But as I read this, I feel like I'm just being told what happened and it sounds awful. And I don't really feel anything. So I kind of want to figure out what we need to do so that I am feeling something and that I'm still invested. After a couple of painful moments of rest, I staggered up and looked around to see Billy taking over Sean's watch of me. What do we know about Billy? Oh, here we go. The last time he had a taser, he shot Wanda and she's gone forever. So Billy held the taser out. Okay. You know what? Some internal feelings of Sayas, very short, maybe scattered somewhere in there, one or two, not too many. Just something where she's got some internal, she has to have internal feelings because you're telling me what happened. She has to have some internal sensations and thoughts, because the last time this dude had a taser, he used it on this chick and she never came back. So she's got to have some cringe there, some hesitation. She's given a moment of pause. She's kind of like, hold up, now Billy's got it. We know what happens when Billy has a taser. So I think if you sprinkled something subtly in there, this whole paragraph will work if you have some internal sensation to feel what Saya's feeling, if that helps. I think that I need that from her, because when I say it out loud, what is happening here, I'm cringing. But when I'm reading it, I don't think I'm feeling what Saya's feeling. I'm guessing these are her thoughts. I mean, she's telling us the story. But what sensations are coming through her? Is she give pause? She's like, hold up, Billy's got the taser. And then the last time he had one, Tracy boasted they'd equip all the cops with these new tasers by 1990. They were meant for long range instead of the short range stun gun. The last time Billy had a taser, he shot the escapee Wanda in the back. I think if we have her give pause somewhere like really early in here and say that, she stopped she stopped moving. Okay. After a couple painful moments of rest, I staggered up and looked around to see Billy taking over Sean's watch of me. Maybe an internal thought like, oh no, or it doesn't have to be long. It could be very short. Oh no. And that sense of, if you can show that sense of hesitation, that her giving pause, that dread or the sinking sensation, some internal feeling right here as she sees Billy hold the taser out. And you're getting ready to find out why here. But I think that might help. Tracy boasted they'd equip all cops with these new tasers by 1990. They were meant for long range instead of the short range stun gun. The last time Billy had a taser, he shot the escapee Wanda in the back. She was taken to the hospital and we never saw her again. We were maybe some anger right here, some kind of feeling right here. We were the guinea pigs before the product was approved for use by police. I hope they never approve it. Yeah, I think maybe a little internal something tucked right there, and all this will work. I backed away from Billy. Yeah, here we go. So if we sprinkle it along the way, you're going to have the consistent investment of the reader into what Say is going through. So we have to find that balance of internal sensation. We have to remember to tap our senses, and it's all got to be subtle and tucked here and there. I backed away from Billy. As my back pinned to the cold hard steel of the chain-linked fence, I had a flashback. Pinned, my back pinned. Pressed. I backed away from Billy. Oh, we've got a back and back. Hang on a second. I backed away from Billy. As my back pinned to the cold hard steel of the chain-linked fence, I had a flashback. My dream led me here, to the small shed on the other side of the fence. I must have dreamed about this wooden shack a dozen times. You have an echo on dream. And here's another use of dream in the same paragraph. In my dreams, a mysterious purple light, even smoke, emanated from it. The light pulled on me like gravity, drawing me nearer and nearer. There was an inexplicable feeling inside that if I reach it, I would be in a safe bubble, impervious to harm. I wrapped my arms around myself, my hands clenched tightly onto my sleeves. I might change this to active. Wrapping my arms around myself, I clenched onto my sleeve, something. I feel like that needs to be active. Let's just keep going. I wrapped my arms around myself, my hands clenched tightly onto my sleeves. I just couldn't fill the void of that safe feeling. Okay, this is a very interesting paragraph. Okay, I backed away from Billy. As my back pinned to the cold, hard steel of the chain-linked fence, I had a flashback. Okay, when we have a flashback, okay, let's see. I backed away from Billy as my back pinned. Okay, I might just change the word pinned there. Something about it isn't working for me. That is just my brain being hung up on that word right there. I think it might just be that when I think pinned, you're stuck. And I get that. You're saying she's stuck. I backed away from Billy. Pinned to the cold hard. Pressing myself to the cold hard steel of the chain link fence. You know what? I would do that. Here we go. I backed away from Billy, pressing myself to the cold hard steel of the chain link fence. And I would take out, I had a flashback. I think I might, because it's telling, and you're going to drop into a flashback. I mean, you're literally telling me you're going into a flashback, but I don't know if you have to, that being my point, or a thought, a consideration. If you read it without it, let's dive in right here and see what happens. I backed away from Billy, my back pinned to the cold, hard steel of the chain link fence. My dream led me here, to the small shed on the other side of the fence. Oh, we got fence again. We got echoes on fence. Let's see. My dream led me here to the small shed on the other side of the fence. Okay. I backed away from Billy. I must have dreamed about this wooden shack a dozen times. Okay, wait. There's a shack. I'm kind of getting this, I have this vision of like, I feel like there's like bright light and a really tall security fence. And now I'm kind of imagining like a shed type, utility building. Let's see if I'm getting the visual you want. And a mysterious purplish light, even some smoke coming from the building. Got it? The light pulled on me like gravity drawing me nearer and nearer. See, I'm liking this. Okay. There was an inexplicable feeling inside that if I reached it, I would be in a safe bubble, impervious to harm. I like that too. The sentences that I'm hung up on are this one. I wrap my arms around myself, my hands clenching tightly under my sleeves. I just couldn't fill the void of that safe-filled feeling. Okay. I wrap my arms around myself, unable to fill the void of that safe feeling. I don't know if you like that. Clenched tightly, tightly being an adverb. And we want to use adverbs very, very sparingly, especially in professional writing. I do see them a lot in published books, but in the checklist that I read when you're screening your manuscript for things before you submit, one of the things on that list is to look for adverbs and to try removing them and seeing if your sentence works without it. So here, I think even if you just take out the tightly, this whole thing might actually work better. Sometimes adverbs make a sentence clunky or cause distance. And what we want to do is have a really smooth, tight, suck you in where your mind is completely immersed in this world and you don't want anything taken away from your writing. So my suggestion would be to toy with screening for adverbs. I don't see you using a whole lot of them, but I don't think it's helping your sentence in this particular paragraph. I would look for the word echoes. I think if you reduce those, the rest of this is going to shine really well. I'm liking a lot of this right in here. And I do get the sensation that I do get that sensation. I can see she's feeling safe in this space and that she's wrapped her arms around herself because she feels empty. She feels an emptiness being away from that safe feeling. So good job there. Those are my tips to make that paragraph shine. Now I could see a pulsing purple mist out from under the crudely padlocked door. Deja vu. This happened in my dream. Now it was happening for real. I hooked my fingers into the metal fence as my body flushed hot and tingly. Okay, so she's having a sensation as she's approaching this fence. Okay. If we say deja vu, I don't think we need to say this happened in my dream. Now I could see a pulsing purple mist out from under the crudely padlocked door. Deja vu. It was happening for real. I might even omit the now there to say it was happening for real. I hooked my fingers onto the metal fence as my body flushed hot and tingly. I mean, technically, if you want that, though exactly the way it is fine. Yeah. I think when I look, I'm looking to see if I have any suggestions to make it tighter. It's not working, but I feel like it's a little bit redundant with the deja vu and this and then literally saying, which deja vu says the same thing. That's why I said that. So is because of that. So that's just a thought. Out of nowhere, a giant white butterfly, a moth, I decided, flew frantically toward the shed. Interesting. How big is this? Because it's almost like she's having like a vision type thing. I mean, she's got this deja vu sense, but now it's really happening. And now all of a sudden there's a moth and it's big enough that it's caught her attention. So really quick question. How giant is this thing that it caught her attention like that? I almost wonder, are we just talking like the size of my hand? Are we talking the size of a dog? And the reason I'm wondering that is because it came out of nowhere. So she's having this whole experience right here. And then here comes this thing. If it's not as big as my brain is, my brain is taking the word giant and like running off with it. How big is giant? How big is that? Because she's noticed it at this really this really intense moment. I mean, this whole entire scene is just, there's so much happening there. And then in like this little delicate, oh, I just said little, but we've said it's giant. And so it's floating across the, out in front of her towards the shed. And it's interesting. It's an interesting thing to throw in there. So I'm interested in seeing where that goes. If it's just like a very surreal moment. Are you painting a very surreal moment? Like it's happening and it's got that weird feeling to it of I can't believe this is happening. And it's almost like it feels like a dream, but it's really happening to her. And if that is what you're going for, you've done a really good job. Good job. Or if this moth is significant and means something. Okay. Okay. You should run away, Billy said, startling me out of staring into the darkness and into his long, flowing hillbilly locks. Like Wanda, he smiled a joker of a smile so wide the ends reached the tops of his cheeks. Or stay here, and I could say you ran. Oh, so many internal thoughts right now. You painted him sinister really well right there. Okay, I'm going to observe this to kind of see what I think of it again. I have to kind of taste these words again because it's interesting. The way I'm trying to, I've got to say it again. Okay. You should run away, Billy said, startling me out of staring into the darkness and into his long flowing hillbilly locks. Okay. This is really interesting description of him. And I'm kind of having thoughts like, okay, so as the reader, as the beta reader, I'm supposed to literally look at everything and kind of overanalyze it the way I am. So I hope that it's not frustrating you because it's literally what I'm trying to do is to give you a combination of my reader thoughts, my impressions, and at the same time, see if there's anything I can offer you to make anything better and to be objective about it. And so when I see long flowing hillbilly locks, I don't dislike this paragraph. Okay. I really like how you made him very sinister in his actions there. But when I look at this and I kind of like it, I get it, cause like I almost got like a mullet image in my head. And maybe that's if he has a mullet, you might just say that because it's a little conflicting. It almost makes him sound like he's got really pretty hair, but he's a jerk. Okay. I'm not sure what Billy looks like, but I kind of thinking he's got a mullet and maybe I would just say his mullet. I do like long flowing hillbilly locks though. It's also very unique. So you have a really interesting, there's a couple different things in here that have been very unique and I really like that. And the longer that I sit with them, I'm like, I really dig that. It's kind of cool. But then sometimes I will like something and like my beta reader, my crit will come back and tell me, really, are you thinking about the long, I'm imitating, I'm being mean to a beta reader and I am a beta reader. So this is hilarious, but they'll be like, do you really think that in this moment you're looking at the long flowing hillbilly locks? And they would say something like that and ruin it for me. So my brain is going, should I say that that's not, but I kind of like it. So you know what, if you like it and I like it, you should just keep it. But you may hear someone else may say something to you about it. Let's see. You should run away, Billy said, startling me out of staring into darkness and into his long flowing hillbilly locks. Or you could try out, just if somebody's ruining our fun, because I like what you have there. But if someone was come along and ruin our fun, you might flop it out with mullet. And that keeps Billy being ugly and you're feeling, not to insult anybody with a mullet, my apologies. But let's see. But, it would fit with that hillbilly locks thing and being long and being one word. So if someone thought this was too wordy, like another reader, or if you had like a professional reader, come back and look at this, they might pick at you for it. I personally like it. You like it. I would probably leave it. But if it comes up to be a thing, mullet would be the thing to probably flop out, but you see where I'm going with it. I'm going to quit harping on it. I'm just trying to explain my thought process. So I apologize if I overdo it. Let's see, like Wanda. I do like this. I like how you gave him this great dialogue and then you built on it. And she's kind of jerked from where she was back into facing her villain. She's had one villain after the other. And he says, like Wanda, and that hits home based on everything we know about what happened to Wanda. Good job, good job, good job. I'm cheering for you right now. He smiled a joker of a smile so wide the ends reached the tops of his cheeks. Now, you've got a word echo here, but in this situation, the way that you've used it, it could be just fine. It really could. But you also have it a third time, and I hesitate on that. He smiled a joker of a smile, so wide the ends reached the tops of his cheeks. Maybe the corners, okay? Maybe the corners. And maybe we just drop one mention of it because we already know what we're thinking of, and we just go right into there. Those are some thoughts. He smiled a joker of a smile, so wide the corners reached the tops of his cheeks. If you like that, if you like it, if you don't, you've still got a great thing going on right here. Or stay here, and I could say you ran. So now I have got this great visual of this villain, and you built it and you showed it. Good job. I'm cheering for you so hard right now. If I ran away, if I attempted a jailbreak, I would only be giving him what he wanted. I ran anyway. I don't mean escaping the prison. I ran all the way back to my building, scurrying my way out of the spotlight, the way of the roach. Okay, so here we have a mention of roach again. And in this term, I'm thinking it's her again. She's thinking of herself as a roach. So that middle one where I thought it was him that was a roach, if I were you and she is thinking of herself as a roach, I'd go back and look at that middle one in between these two that we talked about, the one where I got confused, and maybe think of something else that you want to rework that a little tidbit. And this is interesting. She ran anyway, and she didn't mean escaping the prison. She ran back to her building, scurrying my way out of the spotlight, the way of the roach. Okay. All right. I'm kind of thinking he didn't shoot at her. Because, was it? Ooh. I kind of was cringing as she was running away. I was thinking he was going to shoot at her. It sounds like he didn't. Wow. Okay. So maybe he was just threatening her and she didn't know that. Ooh. I'm almost wondering. Kind of wondering. It's action, though. Okay, here's my conflict. Here's my internal conflict, the thing that I'm hesitating over. Sometimes I try to wait and see if I can figure out what I'm thinking before I actually say something because, so I make sense without doing all the jumping around that I do. But you're getting a raw experience from on my part. So that's probably why I always sound so indecisive because I kind of am. I'm processing. I even like your repetition here. The way you used it is good. If I ran away, if I attempted a jailbreak, I would only be giving him what he wanted. I ran anyway. Oh, I almost want that to stand by itself and then start a new paragraph here because that feels like a punch because you have felt her hesitation. She knows. And I'm really caught up with her. I'm invested in her right now. So congratulations. Let's see. I ran away. I ran anyway. I don't mean escaping the prison. I ran all the way back to my building, scurrying my way out of the spotlight, the way of the roach. Yes, I think I might just have that and then start my next paragraph. And you've got punch, punch, punch to your reader. Good job. Once inside, I tiptoed around the rest of the sleeping tenants to the corner of the barracks, to where my grandmother slept fitfully with chronic phlegm-filled coughs. Ooh, that's a long sentence. Ooh, it's not bad though. Let's see. Sometimes long sentences are okay. Some beta readers are going to come after you for them. I am notorious for run-on sentences. Notorious. In the very beginning of my writing, I had a whole paragraph of a run-on sentence. And all the words were beautiful, and I really hated breaking it up. But I found out it read much better when I did. And I tried to reword them to keep my beautiful words. Let's see. Once inside, I tiptoed around the rest of the sleeping tenants to the corner of the barracks. My grandmother was there, sleeping fitfully with chronic phlegm-filled coughs. See how you could have two sentences right there, and with a very minimal change, a slight adjustment. I'm omitting this, and my grandmother was there, sleeping fitfully with chronic filled coughs. If you wanted to break it into two sentences, that might be a suggestion. I felt her forehead every night to make sure she hadn't run a fever. Months of this lifestyle wasn't sustainable. I needed my grandmother out of here. End of chapter. Wow. Oh gosh. Wow. Okay. So you have done a great job of diving right into your action here. Oh, but there's supposed to be an Easter egg. Okay, so I read the prologue to anyone watching, and the author had told me that there was an Easter egg from the prologue in the first chapter. And I don't know. I was so caught up in my analysis and so caught up in what was happening to Saya that I think I might have missed the Easter egg. Let me just see. There is a bird right outside my window that is going off like a smoke alarm, but it's a bird or an animal. I think it's a bird. Let's see. My other senses. Oh, gosh. Oh, I'm so sorry if I missed this Easter egg. I was so into my beta read, and I was so into your story and what was happening to Saya that I think I missed the egg. I will say, when I read the prologue, and there's nothing wrong with the way you did this from my understanding of fantasy writing, it's perfectly, it showed distance. Like in her prologue, you guys, she had little like segments of time passing, and she set it up really well to what is happening, I guess, with Saya right now. It introduced Saya in the middle of it, but there was all these other characters that you skipped to, and it was showing the setup of this situation, and it did explain the Malvos fruit. Okay, this was mentioned in the prologue, not necessarily. I don't know that she said I got the taint on me there, but I do remember the mother not wanting her to be purple. And then here she is purple. So this reference right here in this paragraph did show up in the prologue. I don't know and it wasn't necessarily word for word this, obviously. This is her reflection of that. I don't remember if she said specifically that line, but I do know that her mother's thoughts of being purple were negative, and I definitely have that ick feeling from mom right here. And Saya's like, I can live with it. And that this fruit was mentioned in the prologue. So I don't know if that was the Easter egg you tucked in there, but I do know that I did think of the prologue when I read this paragraph. But again, I was so invested in what was happening to Saya and doing my beta job that I might have missed it. So if that was it, yay me. If not, oh gosh, it looks like I missed it. Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I missed anything else that would be a reference to the prologue. Maybe that was it. Oh, if it wasn't, I'm so sorry. And I can explain why, which I did. But so my first thoughts of this first chapter is I would keep reading because I want to know more about how Saya became purple. I want to know more about what in the prologue setup told me that there's portals. And when I was reading the prologue, I thought of terraforming. I was like, oh, they are literally I don't know who the people were, and you didn't say who they were. So but okay, so guys, these men came making deals with farmers to plant this crop, and it had all these perks as to how well it would grow for them, and they paid them to grow it. And so it was very profitable for the farmers, and that was the enticing way for them to get them to grow these things. And as she was doing each segment, I was like, oh, they're terraforming this planet and they're literally tricking the humans into doing it. Now, if to my author, if that is what you intended, you did a brilliant job. Because that was my reader impression when I read your prologue was, yeah, wow, that's really good. Very creative, very realistic, which makes it believable, which is awesome. And I definitely had that. I will say I did not hold on to the names of the characters from each segment except for Saya. And I think the only reason I held on to Saya was because I had in our correspondence there was mention of her here and there, and in your summaries she was mentioned, so I was kind of keeping an eye out for her, but I didn't retain. I think I retained a little bit. I feel like there was a character named Jim. I'm trying to not look back at the prologue as I'm talking, but there was a couple of interactions with the farmers that had their names in there, and I kind of wondered if I should be almost with fantasy. I kind of sometimes literally take notes or I reference maps or whatever. And I wasn't sure if I needed to remember the farmers as a reader. I wasn't sure if I needed to remember them and their timestamp and the progression. I had hoped that I didn't need to remember them, except for maybe what happened to them, not necessarily their names, but what happened. So that's what I did as a reader when I was reading the prologue, was remembered not necessarily their names, but what happened to paint the picture of where we are here. So that's my feedback from there. So this is very interesting. I'm going to compliment you further because it's readable. You read it. I can read it without needing a dictionary or a thesaurus, or I don't have to do a whole lot of searching. I can just get into the story. And Saya is a great, unique name, but it's also, if I'm saying it correctly, which I think I am, then it's a good choice because I don't have to sit here and be hung up on, am I saying this right? So all the little things that pull me away from a fantasy, you're already avoiding them. And so I like that. I personally, some people like the really complicated, intricate, deep. You got to keep notes as you read each page, and I was kind of prepared for that. I wasn't sure what I was coming into here, but I really liked this. I also like that we're down here. We're setting it up for the next chapter. We've identified her problem. She's got multiple villains. Yeah, this is really good. I like it. Good job. Your creativity is good too. I like this whole, I like the way you did your prologue and set it up. I could have made some suggestions like I did in here with the detracting from the best parts of your writing, because you have this really great, unique, creative way of wording things that I give pause to, and I don't know if that's the beta in me going, oh wow, that was different, and kudos to you for being different. Yeah, I like it. I like your voice. I like your idea. Thank you so much for asking me to beta chapter 1, The Beckoning, from Shadow of Steel, I believe it was. She has this published on, what was it called? It's a platform that I had not been familiar with. She had explained to me what it was, and the minute she said Wattpad, which is not the platform she's using, but the minute she said it's like that, I knew exactly what she was talking about. Royal Road. So I'm going to share a link to this story, this original fiction, on Royal Road. And I don't know if you said if you had a pen name or if you wrote under your name. So I'm trying to look to see if... Nope, I don't have the window open. All right. So I'm going to click the link here and see what your pen name is. Meltong. Meltong. So I'm going to share a link to Shadow of Steel by Meltong, a fantasy with a really great start in here. I like the way she set up her world. When you definitely read that prologue, don't skip it, and then drop into chapter 1 and enjoy Saya's story beginning. Thank you so much for staying with me during another episode of Mystery Red Reads. My brain is still processing this story and how neat it is. So thank you, Meltong, for having me to beta for you. And I hope to see you guys next time on Mystery Red Reads.